Back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today I'll be your host. Today we're talking about the Final Four. I'm actually giving you my reactions to both the men's and women's Final Four leading into the championship game today and also to tomorrow for the men's basketball. So wanted to go ahead and jump into it and first start off here, guys, with women's basketball has been incredible. I definitely think that it has taken even another step forward. It's been some huge star power in this NCAA tournament, whether it's been Clay or Caitlin Clark, Angela Reese, Juju Watkins. Like, these players have been outstanding. And I definitely think that just moving forward, the sport is in a terrific place, especially when you have LeBron James out there tweeting about this as well. This is huge. And might I add, man, that, like I said, it was just the display of basketball was just incredible. Personally had a chance to watch a couple of these games here, actually both of these games, and I thought it was phenomenal. So going back to the UConn and Iowa game, man, that was a tough loss for UConn. And my thoughts here in this one is just that I think that the bottom line there is that as a referee, all right, making that final call in the fourth quarter with the game on the line, right? Like, I don't think that you can call an offensive foul like that. And so for those who did not watch the game, to put this in context, Iowa and UConn were basically coming down to the final minutes here, and UConn essentially had a chance to pretty much either get the lead or to tie it up. And it was an off-ball screen. They were trying to get Page available here in the off the ball, and it just turned into an offensive call, and it was just questionable. It was questionable because it seemed like a play that you normally would see pretty much in routine basketball. And I know it can be called from time to time, but just the fact that it was called in that manner at that point in the game, even NBA players, essentially even LeBron, I think, tweeted after that he was shocked that the game ended like that. And so tough one for UConn. I think that they'll be back here, but look, Caitlin Clark continues to grind away. And the one thing that I do love about Iowa is, in my opinion, I think it's an undersized team, and so the fact that they were able to still rebound and play a lot bigger than what they generally are across the board. I think that that was huge, for Iowa. And I think that this is going to prove really big for them in their next game where they're going to be going up against South Carolina. So that leads us to the other half here, and that is going to be South Carolina, obviously taking care of North Carolina State, if you're looking here at the screen. And, this was interesting because it was like the tale of two halves, because North Carolina State was right there hanging in the game. But eventually, I think South Carolina did a terrific job in getting other players involved. And I think that the bottom line, when you look at South Carolina, or the one thing that I take away from them, is that, with Coach Staley, this unit seems to just be an all around good team. Like, there's so many different ways that they can beat you, whether it's from the three-point shooting, whether they have some terrific shot creators as well. Like, I love that about South Carolina, the fact that they're able to get players into position just by simply getting to their spots. Like, the handles were on full display. I mean, just generally watching them, and this is my second time watching them as well. Got a chance to watch them during their tournament play, but man, South Carolina is really, I think, one of the best top to bottom teams that I've seen in college basketball in quite some time. And I mean, I'm talking about like dynasties, when I'm thinking about like Tennessee, Pat Summitt in those Vol days and kind of the early years of Connecticut. Like, it has dynasty written all over it. And so leading into today's championship game, which is set to take place here within, I think, about 15, 20 minutes, depending on when you're watching this game. But initially, I like South Carolina. I know that I love the underdog story with Iowa, and certainly Caitlin Clark has broken just about every record that you possibly can break here. But I think ultimately the bottom line here is that Iowa is going to run into, I think, the much better basketball team in South Carolina. And I just alluded to the fact that just the all-around play. I mean, from a guards all the way down to their forwards, very polished. And I think that they have dimensions that I think Iowa has yet to see. And I will give Iowa credit. I mean, the fact that they were able to dismantle LSU, who in my opinion, had the much more taller team. That speaks volumes about Iowa, but not just the height that South Carolina has. It's the fact that they have other things that they can do to you that I just think is going to separate them from Iowa today. But I expect for this to be a tight basketball game. I expect for this to go down to the fourth quarter. I'm thinking that this game, in my prediction, is going to be, I'm going to say 85-78 in favor of South Carolina. So look forward to watching that game here in moments. Next up, guys, I wanted to take a look here at the men's Final Four and what that actually presented to us yesterday. And so it was pretty much, I'm going to say it was interesting to say the least. I mean, the North Carolina State and Purdue game, both were close, by the way, until certain moments in the game. But I think that really kind of speaks to what Dan Hurley was saying at the end of the game against Alabama, saying that at the end of the day, this is what was destined to happen. We are destined to see two of the top teams like Purdue and also UConn meet in the Final Four. I think it's what the college fans wanted to see. It's what professionals wanted to see. And this is essentially what we could just, this is the best matchup that we could ask for as basketball fans. And so starting with Purdue, Zach Edey is a guy that he's pretty much shown that he can compete at a high level. He's come back. He's in such great shape as well, able to play extensive minutes. And his ability to create mismatches on the inside has been incredible for Purdue. And the fact that the guard play has gotten a lot better around Zach Edey, even better than what they had last year. That is really what has made them dangerous. And so the fact that they were able to pretty much dismantle NC State, I think was a testament to just how good that they were. And I think when you look at this game, you'll see that they mitigated really the size advantage that maybe they might have had with Burns on the inside. I think that they did a terrific job in kind of closing down on Horn and those guys like that. And really, they were able to do it in spurt ability. All right. That's one thing that I can say with UConn and also Purdue as well, is that they shut you down in spurts. And next thing you know, you look up, they've got like a 12 point lead on you where they've gashed you. So, Purdue, like I said, they've gotten better from the outside shooting aspect, and then Edey has gotten better as far as his shape, and he's always been very good, obviously with the way he's able to use his feet and his post positions and things like that. So he's been good with that. Hasn't really shown an ability to knock down outside jumpers, but he's been incredible there. On the other side of this thing, UConn and Alabama, this game was pretty close for the most part. Kudos to Alabama for getting there. I mean, it's their first Final Four appearance. I said that this was probably Alabama's deepest team since Coach Oates has taken over. And that's saying a lot considering that they just had the number 2 pick in the draft last year with Brandon Miller. Mark Sears has been terrific. A young man that has come back from Ohio, I think is what they were saying during the broadcast. I think he had come down to the point where he's making 153 points or 3-pointers in his offseason workouts, has taken his shooting percentage from something like unreal, like 30-some% all the way up to like a 45 or 50% rate or something crazy like that. But the work that he's put in, it definitely showed here with Alabama, but they just ran into the better team. When I look at Caravan and these guys like that, like they were just on a whole nother level. And so with Connecticut, man, the one thing that I would say about them, man, with Carabin, also too with Donovan Clegan, these guys are tough, and especially Clegan. The one thing that I will say about this with Clegan, I don't know, I'd have to go check my draft prospect boards at this point for the NBA, but the one thing that is encouraging about him and looking at him for probably, I'd say the first time up close in probably a year since I've really looked at him, since they played in the tournament last year, but there is reports that he's actually knocking down 3-point shots in practice, and that's very scary. All right. I start to think of like a Brooke Lopez. So for the people who are going to watch this game on Monday night, you're going to be looking at a player that and we talked about this before, with a group of guys that I actually play basketball with too, as well, that there's certain players that they look a certain way in college, but then they take off in the NBA because now they're not in this system. I think that you're going to be looking at a guy in Donovan Clegan who, in my opinion, could be a guy that many people go, wow, we didn't see that coming. Because his touch, it looks very good at the free throw line as well. I love his ability to repost. I love his ability to kick out and things like that as well. He had a stat line of 18 points, had 4 blocks. I mean, they were convincing blocks, 5 rebounds, and he did have an assist, 1 assist, but it doesn't speak to what he was able to do as far as player movement and ball movement. And I also love Alex Karabin, the way he's able to shoot the basketball off of screens, the deep shots and things like that. Certainly, I think this is a guy that absolutely can affect winning here for you guys. And another guy that I want to point out to you as well is Stephen Castle, the freshman of the year in the Big East, 21 points, 2 assists. He had the 5 rebounds as well. And lastly, guys, a guy that I think has really good star power and potential here was Cam Spencer. I mean, he was terrific. 8 rebounds, 14 points, had the 4 assists. But what I was very impressed with him about is his ability to rebound at a high clip. And the one thing I will say about Connecticut, Connecticut probably has one of the crispest offenses that I have seen in college basketball in quite some time. Like, and this is dating back to probably, I'm going to say, Billy Donovan and his back-to-back championships with Florida. Like that offense was pretty crisp with Noah and Horford and Brewer and all those guys like that. But this offense is pretty nasty in a sense. And I mean, what you guys are going to see is ultimate motion basketball, the way that they stagger off each other, the way that they get the cut after the cut. It reminds you of a mix of kind of what Golden State does or has done in their prime when they were on their 4 championship run here. So, look, I think that this is going to be a terrific game coming for both the men's and women's game. Initially, if I could go ahead and actually predict this one, I like UConn. I know that Purdue is destined for this one, but I like UConn. This is destined, I think, for an over-under of 145 points, if I'm not mistaken. I think that this is going to be I think this is an 80 to 75 contest. I think this comes to within 5, and I wouldn't be shocked if Purdue somehow pulls this out. If anybody's going to beat UConn, it would be Purdue. But I just think that UConn as a whole, they have way too many weapons and can utilize that against Purdue. A lot like I was just talking about with the women's game with South Carolina. Like they have so many different ways to beat you other than height. And I think that Purdue is mainly leaning on height, and it's more of an inside outside game. Connecticut can flip it on you. They can go outside, inside. They can go fast break. They can go half court. They can give it to you any way you want to. I'm not sure Purdue is going to be able to run with them, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to really keep up with that half court offense. And to be honest with you, Donovan Clegan is going to be a handle for Edie because he's a bit more mobile. That's one thing I was looking at on the defensive end. I just talked about his 5 blocks. The 5 blocks were convincing because he was chasing people down and knocking it off the board, which I've seen Edie block shots, but I don't know if I've ever seen Edie with that kind of foot speed, man. So I'm really, really intrigued to watch this Monday. So with that being said, guys, I want to go ahead and thank the fans out there who have chimed in on a week-to-week basis to watch the show and help us drive stories to the show. Just want to go ahead and thank both Anchor, which is was now a Spotify podcast, and I want to go ahead and thank YouTube, where you can actually find the videos in the show notes below. You'll see those links where you can actually follow us. And once again, I want to thank the sponsors who have put sponsorship on the show. This is Real Talk Sports with Rico. I'll be back with another show. I'll see you guys, and peace. We're out. Peace. Peace, 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 peace.